Some time ago, I was invited to an event in London. The event invited 30 of the wellness industry's most influential men. Not sure how I got on the list, but I was, and I went. And during the event, we all confronted and discussed many topical cliches, challenges and stigmas around the male aspect of the wellness industry. It was a really great evening. It left me with something, if I'm honest, like I think it did everyone that attended. It was at this event I had the honour and the privilege of meeting one of the most inspiring individuals that I think I've ever met, to be honest. And you know me, if you listen to this podcast for a while, you know I don't say things like that very often. Andy Simpson is a single dad to 3 boys and lives and works on a narrowboat in the UK waterways. There is so much more to him than that, but I'm going to let him tell you about it because, as I say, very inspiring, very remarkable. How are you today, Andy?
I'm awesome, and I just wanted to say again what an event that was. It was, and I felt exactly the same as you. I felt like, why am I here? I always just feel like I'm just a boater, just floating around the place, and I think we all feel a bit like that. How did I make the list? And there were some incredible people there, and it wasn't intense. It was such an intense event.
Intense doesn't quite seem like the right word, does it?
I know. I don't know if I'm still recovering or learning from it or what I'm doing, but my goodness, it was incredible. So yeah, it was great. It was such an honor to be part of that event.
Yeah, I was talking to a good friend of mine about it, and I said something similar, like, I'm not sure how I got on the event. And he started laughing, and I said, what are you laughing at? He said, the person that thinks they deserve to be at an event like that probably shouldn't be there.
Like, absolutely. And I'm sure everyone felt like that, didn't they? I'm sure absolutely everyone was there thinking the same, like, why am I here? These are such incredible people coming together. And the conversations that I had, everyone I spoke to was like, I know why you're here. So it was just an incredible collective. Just to get all those people in one room was amazing, really amazing.
As people started arriving, the irony is I talk a lot about imposter syndrome with people, and I deal with people that are trying to achieve really difficult and ambitious things. So imposter syndrome comes up all the time. The irony of me standing there, and as the next person came in, as the next person thing, I'm like, I really don't need, why am I here? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, I was there. I was there with you.
Absolutely. Well, I think we were going through it together, weren't we?
Yeah, we were just talking to each other. Like, everyone's coming in. I think we were some of the first people to arrive, weren't we? So just watching everyone coming in and almost kind of greeting everyone a little bit as they arrived was intense. And then it just, the level just kept upping and upping and upping on the intensity of the whole thing. But I'm so grateful that I got to be part of it. It was just amazing.
Yeah, it really was. And credit to Adam and the rest of the team. Just brilliant. Just really, really good. Yeah. But obviously today we're here to talk about you, my friend. I've sort of been looking forward to this. I say sort of because some of the things that you're going to talk about today, I'm sure, are quite difficult to hear. And I almost feel a responsibility at this stage to sort of not warn people, but just set the table and say, you have had a very difficult time in life. And there are going to be some very emotive and difficult things that you're going to talk about today that are probably going to be hard to hear for some people. And I just want to give that away early doors, really, so that there's no shocks whilst they're driving their car or whatever.
And I often tell people that these conversations, I think, are harder for other people to hear than they are for me to share. So they're experiences I've lived and I've processed and I've worked through, whereas quite often I'm dropping these things on people like bombs, really very suddenly. And in a sadistic way, I sometimes kind of enjoy that. But sometimes I'm like,
sorry, mate, I did that bit out for you.
No, keep that in there. I quite enjoy the sudden reaction of just. It can be real interesting to measure people's responses to these sudden bombs being dropped. To a point where I was working as an artist for quite some time, and I actually played quite a lot within my work with real firm, straight language. And sometimes really abrasive language that would put people in really uncomfortable positions in order to measure their response to that uncomfortable language. And it's language like death that I find really emotive for people, and people really struggle to use the words and to say the blunt things, whereas I will very often say it very clearly.
And I think that is part of the reason why someone like yourself was invited to this big event. And it's because the key to self-development in most cases is to have that uncomfortable conversation, is to experience that uncomfortable emotion or that event or that situation. There's a reason why you're not doing what you know you need to do. A lot of the time when I'm working with people, in matter of fact, every single time, people think that when they come to a coach or whatever, that it's going to be someone that gives them the answers. And I don't believe that whatsoever. I'm not that arrogant. I don't think I've got the answers for other people. What I do know is that they have the answers, and it's most likely stuck behind some sort of resistance, fear of some kind. And it's my job to keep listening and to keep pointing out what they're ignoring, but saying.
And saying,
So I think yeah, and I think it's a credit to you that you're able to have those uncomfortable conversations, and also I think there's something about a lot of people know how they feel, but they don't know how to articulate it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when somebody says something in a certain way, and then the person listening goes, "Oh my God, that's how I feel. I've never been able to say it that way before." I think that has power too.
Yeah, and as a dad, I'm really trying to instill that in my children. This ability to have the difficult conversations, because what you can gain from those difficult conversations, it doesn't necessarily happen instantly, but the more you have them and the more you have them, the more comfortable you become with them, the more you will learn from them. And I know there's a cliche to say that there's a lesson in every single trauma and every single diversity, but the more that you talk through them and the more you go through them, eventually something will come out of it. And eventually, I think not only can you survive difficult situations, but I think you can thrive as well. I don't think it's just about surviving. I think you can come out the other side and thrive and be grateful for them in a way.
Yeah, I was explaining it to a client the other day, and I was saying that a lot of the time people want to move forward and they want to do things, and they're not sure why they can't. And I said, well, let's take this, for example. I've got two hands, yeah, and I've got an object in each hand, and I want to pick something else up. I have to put one of these things down in order to pick up the thing that I want to pick up. And that's what people find hard in self-development. It's not always about not being able to do the thing that we're looking at in the future. It's being able to let go of what's happened in the past, and that's hard. It's hard to deliberately put it down, because even though it's painful, even though it's uncomfortable, it comes with a comfort in a weird way.
Mm-hmm. I've had this conversation with my eldest son. He's 14 and
Wow.
gone through far more trauma than any 14-year-old should do. And he actually said to me, but it's not that easy. And I couldn't tell him it was. It's not like, yeah, it is. It is that easy. No, the whole point is it isn't easy. I'm not going to sit here and say, yeah, it is. It's easy. You just got to do this or just got to do that. Yeah. No, it's not. It's not that easy. You're right. Yes, you've nailed it, is the only answer I could give him in that situation, when it's, but it's not that easy to just get up and go in the day, even sometimes for him. Because he's a teenager and teenagers can wallow in their own whatever for hours.
Yeah,
but B, because he's also been through enough of his own trauma now for it to at times really hold him back. And that answer of it's not that easy is, you're right. It's not. It's never going to be. It's not going to get easy.
That's exactly right. And I think that the point that I think that we're alluding to is the awareness that in order to move forward, we do have to put things down. And it's exactly as you say, it isn't easy. And it's that acknowledgement, it's that awareness, it's that realization that, okay, I have to do something hard. The goal here is not to avoid doing the hard thing or finding the hack or finding the easy route. The thing here is to prepare myself that what I'm about to do is necessary, but very, very hard. And when it feels hard, that's why it feels hard, because it is hard.
And accepting that it's hard, but accepting that doesn't mean you can't thrive is the only first step you can take in any trauma and any difficult situation. You have to just realize, actually, this is going to be hard, to make that decision, to decide which direction to go. That's not an easy decision to make. For us as adults, let alone when I'm talking to a child in this situation as a dad, it's much more difficult.
Absolutely. I think people are starting to get an idea of why I have so much respect for you. You're incredible, man. But I'm going to start with the first question today, and it's an easy one. It's always interesting to me where it goes when I ask it, but how did you become Andy Simpson?
And I love that question. I mean, it's a great question. Because especially because I think the answer could change every single day. My decision on how to answer that every single day of my life could be really difficult. But I think I've become Andy Simpson by deciding to just keep standing up and to just keep moving forward. My life has thrown at me my fair share of hurdles. Ever since a child, really, I've just seemed to have faced hurdle after hurdle, and kept making the decision to just stand up again and just keep moving forward. And I mean, my mum died when I was 15. I was 15 when my mum died, and that was an incredibly difficult time for me. I did not handle that in a way that now I would be proud of. I was filled with rage, and I was an angry young man at that point in my life, and at the world, and nothing in particular. And I had to really come through that rage and accept that. And it's still, I actually believe it's still part of me. I think I've got that in me where I could be so angry at the world, but I made the choice to put my chin down, move forward, hands up, chin down, and keep moving forward, and just keep battling through. So I lost my mum at 15. My son then died in 2015. He was 22 months old. And again, my reaction to my son dying just felt the same. I just felt angry at the world. And I had this why me, why me, why me attitude for such a long time. Like, why do I keep having these things happen to me? Why do I keep having to put up with these challenges? And I was so angry at the world, at the universe, at God, or whoever you might just decide it is that's throwing these things at me. And and it just felt like that no matter what I did in my life, I was just going to be tripped up and thrown hurdles constantly. But I've had to force myself to not allow myself to be a victim. I'm not going to be a victim. I'm not going to sit here and say why me any longer. And again, that was another that's not easy situation to accept that it isn't personal. The universe isn't throwing these things at me personally. It's the hand I've been dealt, and it's the situation I'm in. And to just keep moving forward and to stand up and keep going is a choice that I've made. It's not something that's happened by accident. It's an absolute choice. But those things, I mean, losing my mum, losing my son, my boys then lost their mum. My ex-wife died about a year ago, and I've been a single dad ever since. All these things have there's part of these things that have absolutely shaped me. So there's so much good that has come of those things. Many things that I would change in an absolute heartbeat have become the one thing that shaped me. But that's taken that work to get there. It's not None of it's been easy at any point.
So, unfortunately, a lot of how you became who you are has consisted of your relationship with loss.
Yeah, absolutely. And my reaction to that loss as well, which it hasn't always been as comfortable as it is now. I said, certainly as a teenager when I lost my mum, and then after Edward died, he said he was only 22 months old. He died very suddenly. And interestingly, one thing that people say to me all the time, other parents will say to me, and I hear this time after time, is I couldn't survive if my child died. And I hear this very often. I could not survive. I wouldn't live. I would die if my child died. And generally my answer is you wouldn't die. You would survive. You would keep going. The world does keep turning, and you want the world to stop in that situation. You want absolutely everything to grind to a halt. And there was a real pivotal moment right after my son died where I was in the hospital. And it was maybe a couple of hours after he had died. We'd made the choice to turn off his life support. He was in a coma for a couple of weeks, and we'd had to make that decision. And we were basically told the only way really to know what's going to come of him is to see whether he breathes on his own when you turn the life support off. So we had to make that choice, and he did keep going for a couple of hours. I think he carried on breathing for about 2 hours after he died. Before he died, after we turned the life support off, and then eventually in our arms, my ex partner and I did just kind of slowly drift away, and then and I went for a walk somehow. I don't even remember walking. I don't remember climbing stairs. I don't remember going up in a lift. I don't remember walking down the corridors. I just remember finding myself on a balcony, and it was at the John Radcliffe Hospital, and there's this massive atrium looking over like the cafes and so on. And I just remember standing on this balcony and looking down and thinking my life's over. I could end it right now. And And it was terrifying because it felt so easy to end it right there, really easy. It felt like the easiest thing to do at that point would be to just end it all. And I was stood on this balcony, and the call of how beautiful it would have been to just fall, honestly, was incredibly, it pulled me so desperately. And then I just stepped back. I didn't think about it. I didn't do it. I just stepped back and moved away from it, and thought about where I was. And I said, I don't even remember how I got there. I just know somehow my body had taken me to this position where I was ready to go. Right. My son's died. That's my life done. But I looked down and the world was continuing below me. People were scurrying about, making their coffees, having their conversations. They were dealing with all these things. Nothing stopped. Nothing changed at all. Nothing changed. And it felt like my life had been completely ripped away. But to all these people, and it was really busy hospital, nothing changed. It all carried on going and carried on. Said the world kept on spinning. People were still having their conversations over coffee below me, and not a single thing in their lives and in the world felt like it had changed for them. And I wanted everyone just to stop doing what they were doing and acknowledge that my son had died. Everybody. And that's what I felt like they should be doing. These absolute strangers should be just stopping in their tracks and acknowledging this historic moment that had happened, that I had lost my son. And of course they didn't. It all kept going and all kept going, and the world just continue. And then and although you never lose that, you do the same. A couple of weeks later, you'll be watching a film and you'll laugh at the film, or you'll have a conversation, and for a moment you'll forget what had happened, or you'll wake up first thing in the morning, and those first few seconds in the morning you won't quite realize that someone has gone. And I slowly started to realize that although you feel like your world's over and you cannot survive, you just do. You just keep going, and it will never. I don't even think it ever gets easier. I don't think grief. But you still love that person deeply when you lose them. That love doesn't go, and that grief is just that love that you can't express and you can't put out anymore. And you'll always hold that, but you do start to realize that so much can come from these situations. And I didn't end it. I did survive, and I've got now 3 other amazing, chaotic children that I'm sure are glad that I did, and would have lost so much more if I had taken that step in the other direction. I decided to step back, not step forward.
Wow. Yeah. Is everybody starting to see why Andy's so special? I think that was beautifully articulated for such a very difficult thing to listen to. And I think that we live in a world where we get pulled into social media and Netflix and YouTube, and we get told that things that aren't important are important. And every now and again, life presents you with this wet fish slap in the face moment where none of that shit matters anymore.
No.
And you just think, why did I ever care about any of that? That's not what matters. And it's
No.
the truth is that every day we make the decision to live. We just don't realize it until moments like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
And you did that, and
Yeah.
I'm so proud of you for doing that, and so pleased that you did.
Yeah, well, and so am I now. There was this, and I think the most terrifying part about it in that situation, and the most terrifying part about it on a wider scale, is that it wasn't terrifying at all. It felt so easy. It didn't feel like the difficult thing to do was to step back. I was not scared. I was not worried. There was no part of going forward, standing on that balcony, that scared me at all. It was stepping back that scared me the most. And that is absolutely, that moment started to shape my life into what it is now, because my idea of success very rapidly changed. At the time I was working as a photographer, and I run a photography studio that was kind of moderately successful. We drove a nice car, we had a nice house, we had all these things that I worked really hard for, and I was really glad that I worked hard for them. But I also realized that the 22 months that my son Edward lived, I spent most of that in an office, sat at work. I wasn't present in his life for any of that time. And there was a period of time where I felt this immense guilt about the fact that I wasn't physically there for so much. Now, I can look back at that now objectively, and I can see that I was providing and I was really doing, as a man, what you feel like your role is. My partner was a stay-at-home mum. It was a very traditional setup. I went out and I went to work and I earned the money and I worked hard, and that was my role in the matter. But I very, very quickly realized that the house and the car and all those things meant nothing to me anymore. Absolutely nothing. And I went on this real deep search for something completely different, a way that I could live my life and not necessarily need the same level of income for a start in order to survive and to thrive. Um, and ultimately, that ended up in my divorce. My ex-wife absolutely still wanted to drive her Mercedes around, and she absolutely still wanted this idea of success. And we ended up really drifting apart because our ideas of success became so different. And I just went on this search for an alternative way of living, and I looked into kind of van life, and I looked at static caravans. I looked at all sorts of different options of ways that I could feel a bit more physically free, and still work and pay my way, but just not need this same level of income to spend my life just fighting for the next big purchase, or to pay off my finance or whatever it might be that meant nothing. And then I came across boat life kind of accidentally. Milton Keynes, where I've grown up, the canal just cuts straight through Milton Keynes. So you walk along and you see the boats, and I think people almost don't even realize they're homes here. Most of these boats here are homes. And I just started talking to various boaters, and gradually found myself just doing it. I'd spoke to a couple who were moving off their boat, and they were retired and getting this bit older, and they said to me, don't wait to do it, because it gets more difficult as you get older. And a couple of weeks later, my girlfriend and I at the time went and bought a boat and moved on to a boat. It just suddenly happened. And now I'm part of this amazing community of boaters that there's some incredible people out here. And the way of life for me just means now I'm not spending every single day sat in an office. My overheads are dramatically lower than they was when I was paying a mortgage. So that has given me the opportunity to step back and look at what matters to me. And now more than ever, my boys need me to be present and to be in their life. About a year ago, they then lost their mum. Their mum died again very suddenly. She got an infection, and literally within a couple of days, she died. And previously, before that, I was like a part-time dad, I guess. They lived with mum. They came to visit me at the weekends. We did the fun stuff. I'd take them out for pizza, and it's the easiest thing ever. The difficult part is seeing them leave. The parenting is easy. But quite literally the day after my ex-wife Zoe died, Oliver, my eldest, came straight to me the next day, said, I want to be with dad, moved in with me. And then about a week later, my two younger boys, who are 7 and 10 now, also came to live with me. And I couldn't imagine, if I was working this office job, this 9 to 5, where I had to be in at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I was there working late. I couldn't imagine how I could have done that, and been present enough to give them the support and them the dad that they really need, if I was living a normal life.
If it's okay with you, I just want to go back to that moment where, as you so beautifully said, you stepped back instead of stepped forward. And you might not have the answer to this question, but I'll ask anyway, if that's all right.
Yeah.
And that is, what do you think changed in that moment for you? In that moment where you had this opportunity to step forward and choose the obvious route, or step back and choose a route that wasn't so obvious and you didn't know what was going to happen. What do you think happened in that moment for you?
It was an absolute pull, and I'm not a religious man, so I would love it if I was. I really wish I was, because I feel like that would really give me an answer, like God pulled me back, or something like that. I felt a physical pull away from it that wasn't conscious. It definitely wasn't a conscious decision not to, but it was physical. I physically moved back, and it was a trance moment where it felt like something pulled me out of that. And I'm sure whatever that was deep inside myself, and I'm sure there was moments of me thinking about the fact that at the time I had two other children, I had other people in my life that was there, but it was a physical pull away from that I cannot explain. And I said it would feel, I've actually really envied people that have religion ever since that moment, because I feel like it just must make everything so much easier, and it must explain so much to people if they have this absolute belief in it, right? That, well, and people have said it to me, oh, God pulled you away. And I've really wanted to believe that. I would love to be able to believe that. And I really hope, I really hope that's true. That would be incredible. I just don't have that firm belief that there was anything that did that, but it felt physical. It really did. I did feel a physical pull away from that edge from that moment. And that then triggered a lot of change. But to say exactly what that was, and whether that was just my belief in my children, or that idea that I was needed, or something wider in the universe, who knows? But it was really physical. It was a real physical moment. And seeing everyone below me just carrying on with their lives, smiling and laughing and happy, was I think a part of that. Just the fact that nothing changed, nothing stopped. And I definitely needed to do the same. I needed to still keep going and carry on.
While you were talking there, I started writing a load of words down. It's part of my process as a coach.
Yeah.
When I'm listening to people, I believe that people help themselves. So I just point out the words I hear. And I wrote down duty at the top at first, and then I wrote down responsibility, and then I heard something about a call to leadership, a call to lead. But I wonder, and it's more of a question than anything else, when you said that you saw all the people below you getting on with their lives and not acknowledging this tragedy that had happened in yours, I wonder whether in that moment, somehow, some way, some hope was given to you.
Yeah, and I think I've really learned to search for that hope now anyway, because I do think it's there. I think it's always there, and I now make an effort to find that. And especially because it's so easy to say, why me? Everything's terrible. Whatever I do, it's going to go wrong. And I think we all say those things. And that's not saying I don't feel that sometimes. There's moments when I'm thinking, like, what next? Like, what else?
That's the hopelessness, isn't it? That's the literal opposite.
Yeah. There's absolute moments where I feel that, like, what? Oh, my goodness, all these things. What is going to happen next? And I to the point where I started at one point when I was in this kind of hopeless cycle, looking at patterns, and I realized that my mum and my son died almost to the same day, exact same day, 10 years apart, almost to the day, a day apart, 10 years, exactly 10 years.
Wow.
Then actually it's now 10 years since Zoe died, since Edward died, that Zoe's died almost exactly. Months out this time, about 6 months out, but you do start getting into this cycle of, oh my God, there's a pattern, and I don't want to be terrified in 10 years time now that it's gonna reemerge, and you've just got to, and again there's these moments then that are the absolute opposite, that I can look at. Actually, some amazing things have come of this. I wouldn't be sitting here now having this conversation with you. I wouldn't have been creating the content I'm creating online if I wasn't having these conversations. I'm writing a lot at the moment, and in discussion with some people as far as a book is concerned, which will be amazing. And these are opportunities would have never come to me if I'd stepped forward at that moment. These are opportunities that are there solely because of that decision, or that pull to step back. And I think a part of that was this hope for my boys as well. The fact that at the time, Oliver, my eldest, was 5 years old, and Thomas was very young. He was a baby, tiny baby. I think he was 12 weeks old at the time. And this idea that this is hope for them as well, and that they're going to have to battle through this. And at the time you might feel hopeless personally, but just finding hope, even if it's in someone else, it just at least pushes you forward enough to then find that hope in yourself again when it feels hopeless.
Well, I think when we talk about things like ending your own life, suicide, the massive pull for that is a sense of hopelessness,
Hmm.
is a massive sense of like, what's the point in any of this? I just
Yeah,
know, no more. I've spoke about it before, so I won't speak about it again, but I've been there only once in my life, and I wouldn't have told you it was possible for me to get there. Perhaps naively before that would have thought that that was a certain type of person and that person wasn't
yeah,
me, but then I realized that that's bullshit and that it can happen to anybody. It doesn't
absolutely
matter who
anybody.
you are, what you are, and that was my own naivety at that point. But I think that hope is the fuel, but it's not the vehicle. Hope is like it's the beginning part, and then you have to sort of make a plan over time or find a direction at the very least and start moving towards that, because hope is the fuel, but without anything to put it in, it kind of just
Yep.
stays as hope, right? And things don't happen. But hope is that primary emotion that I know that very often is one that's so difficult to have because it kind of comes with a feeling of nothingness, that we quite often opt for that secondary emotion. And you mentioned earlier on that you experienced a lot of anger and rage early on and subsequently since those. And understandably, if I'm completely
Yeah.
honest, really quite
Yeah,
justifiably, I think.
I actually think that I've had periods in my life where I've been far too comfortable with rage, and I think men especially can be far too comfortable with rage. I think that people see rage as a real acceptable emotion for men, and it gets looked at as strength very often. That angry people and loud, if you're the louder you are and the angrier you are, the stronger you are. Seem and that and it seems to be widely accepted for men to be angry, and it's just okay for men to react in anger. Men that absolutely will not show vulnerability will often very easily show anger, and I've absolutely been there. And I don't think I've lost the ability for rage. I think absolutely is a an emotion that sits very strongly inside me, and I can feel it. I can feel it at times brewing. You get that that heavy chest, like someone's put a brick on your chest at times, and it builds and it builds and builds. I think it's absolutely in us. I think it's in absolutely all of us. And I think the problem for men is that it's just far too easy to go, that's my reaction and that's okay. And and it's not, it doesn't feel like people will negatively judge you for rage. It feels like that people will look at that as power very often. And I do. I felt like I was owning my grief. I think I felt like I was um pushing back against the world a little bit with that rage, and that was the way to do it. And I did that periodically throughout my life, especially as a teenager, where my reaction was, I'm going to just be angry at the world and I'm going to show people that I'm strong and I can cope with this. I can cope with this. And I was never told I haven't got this kind of stern traditional dad that told me like, don't cry and toughen up and things like that. Not at all. But I still felt that that was instilled in me a little bit as a young man, that I had to show strength and I had to be the man and stand up and lead a little bit.
Ironically, by doing the opposite, you show people that you're one of the strongest men I know, to be honest.
and
So I
and I
think
now
that's
now
interesting.
is absolutely. I honestly, I genuinely think that strength comes from vulnerability. I think that again, the hardest thing to do is to be vulnerable. That's far stronger.
So let me share this with you and you tell me what you think about it. So there's this widely thought concept that depression is rage turned inwards.
Hmm.
So if that is the idea, that rage turned inwards becomes depression, that you punish yourself for the things that you feel out of control, for the hopelessness in your life, and you turn inwards and you do it. If you show rage outwardly, isn't that a call for help? Isn't that
Absolutely.
you showing, it's your way of showing vulnerability, but it's not the conventional way, it's not the way that everyone wants it to be, which is because this is the thing, right? Real vulnerability, when you share, you are probably sharing one of the most difficult things that you've ever experienced with somebody.
Hmm.
Now, if you're rageful about that, I kind of understand, because it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, of course you're angry at the world. Of course you're shaking your fist at life and saying like, why me, why me? Of course you are. Absolutely. Of course you are. You're rageful. So although rage is difficult, and obviously there's context attached to this, people destroy things, hurt people, that's not okay. But when you come across angry and rageful, then that is a call for help, in my opinion.
Yeah.
What?
Undoubtedly. And when I look at this from the perspective as a man, at being one, and I'm sure
Yeah.
it's the same for all of us. But especially when young men aren't given the tools to express that fear, actually, I mean, ultimately it becomes from fear turned inwards as well. I think it's fear turned
Yeah.
inwards. And when you're not given the tools to deal with that or express that, then that does become the only outlet, becomes rage and becomes anger. And we don't teach enough young men to express fear and self-doubt or self-loathing, sometimes even, in a way that's developmental in themselves in any way. So that is the only way that's going to come out is rage.
Mm, yeah, and it's interesting. I was going to ask, the next question was, if you looked at the anger as a response or reaction to a more difficult emotion that perhaps you didn't want to have, what was it? But then you dropped in fear. What do
Well,
you
I
think
think
the fear was about?
I think we're all absolutely terrified of everything, and I think that's almost an evolutionary response. We seem to have been built to be scared constantly.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the world is a terrifying place, and we have this concept that we're adults, right? So we're 17 and a bit, and then all of a sudden we're 18 and we're adults, and we get all this responsibility and this power and all these things we can do now. I don't know if you really ever feel ready for it, really.
No, and how could we at any point? And as young men, again, we're told at such a young age to become adults, and I don't think it's
Mm.
possible for us to do that when we're even from a developmental perspective. Um, my teenage son can appear so mature, and he can have conversations about subjects that are intelligent and articulate them so well. And then there'll be moments that generally for him as well show up as anger. I think you're still a child, you're still a baby, really, and you don't have the tools to navigate this.
It's like when they're really young and they want something, they might throw their bottle at you to get your attention, and it's obviously over time they learn there's a better way to do that. And I think that kind of never goes away. I think the real lesson for most men is to recognize that we have to continue learning. We have to continue
Yeah,
learning with different situations, different people, different ways of expressing ourselves, and recognizing that rage perhaps isn't the one.
yeah, yeah. I don't think that necessarily means not to feel it. I mean, feeling angry is a
No,
completely valid emotion in these situations. And I think, and
absolutely.
again, I
Yeah.
want to say all the time, it's okay to feel angry, but developing that anger, that for that fear to turn into anger, and then to allow that anger to turn into rage, outward rage, that takes tools. And again, that is one of those jobs again that isn't easy. That's not something that we should necessarily just know how to do if we don't teach young
No.
people how to do that. And for adults as well. I actually worked as a nightclub doorman for quite some time. I did 12 years working as a nightclub doorman, and you really saw perfectly respectable people become rageful in a split second because someone's looked at them funny, or because someone's knocked their drink over, or and I mean, that doesn't feel to me. I don't believe anyone really cares that they've been looked at funny. Surely not.
Mm,
Surely no one really cares that that person just stared at me. There has to be something else to that. There's got to be something more going on. And again, that has to be fear for me. I mean, that has to come from fear. And often that fear could be just fear itself. If you don't stand up and you don't act tough and you don't act big, what's going to come of that? And
yeah. I mean,
it's
we
just too easy.
we live in this world now where I think everybody convinces themselves that they know what's going to happen, that they're going to wake up every day and they know exactly how their day's going to look, and they're okay with that. But the truth is, that's not true.
No.
Every day, every moment, the future is completely unpredictable. It makes perfect sense for us that we are to feel anxious a lot of the time, because anxiety is the fear of the unknown and we never know what's going to happen. But our brains have this very clever way of turning that anxiety into a problem so that we can start finding solutions. And so quite often that problem becomes the worst case scenario, right? Oh, I've
Yeah.
got this headache, I'm going to Google it, I'm going to die. That's basically
Yeah.
what Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
your brain does. It does that. It
Yeah.
looks for the threat, I suppose. But what you're saying is that that's always there. And it's about us
Yeah.
understanding that that anger is a completely valid emotion, but it's not the emotion that needs
Yeah.
looking at. And in this case, for you, it was fear. And when you look into that fear, you can start to process. Because here's the thing about fear, it's the best ingredient to be brave. And bravery is what it takes to step forward into the unknown, right? This is what it takes to be brave. You
Absolutely.
need to be scared, otherwise you're not being brave. And I say that a
Yeah.
lot on this podcast. You're probably bored of hearing it, but
No,
but
no,
I mean,
absolutely no. Yeah, absolutely. And bravery isn't. Absolute bravery is not about not being scared and not about jumping into
no,
that situation
yes,
without feeling. It's that. So again, alongside my time as one of the reasons I became a nightclub doorman was I was a professional fighter for a good few years. I moved to Thailand and I lived in Thailand and fought Muay Thai, um, and was fighting people that wanted to punch my face in. And every single time that person, you went into the ring with someone that wanted to hurt you, and every single time I got into that ring I was absolutely terrified. um every single time, without any doubt, I would step into that ring and I would go to the toilet about 52 times before a fight, and it was just constant trips back and forth, and every single time I was like, why am I doing this? What is wrong with me? Why am I here? This is stupid. I want to leave. And it was absolutely terrifying every single time. And again, I think that them experiences fighting as I've tried to help that spill into my life a little bit. That actually just doing it is the step that's hard. Once you're over that, just get on with it, and do it type attitude that you tell yourself, just get on with it, do it, just get on with yourself and do it. It's not easy. It is difficult to step in the ring and for that bell to ring. Once the bell rings and you're in there and you're fighting, that's the easy bit. That's absolutely the easy bit. Getting in and not running away before the bell rings, that's the difficult bit. And it was the same thing stood on that balcony. It was the easy thing to do would have been to run away and to take the step forward. Actually stepping into it and stepping into life a little bit more. Um, and giving myself the tools and the skills to move forward is what changed in that situation.
so one of the questions that I always ask, and I think it almost feels a bit redundant at this point because I feel like we've covered it, but I do wonder if concisely we can work out what the learning was. And that's, what's the most challenging and emotionally painful thing you've experienced in your life, and what did you learn from it?
It would be really easy to say that my son dying was the most challenging experience, and I think that's what people definitely expect here. Losing a son and that grief is definitely one of the most challenging things I've done. But it was more the emotion of how beautiful it is to not keep going, and than the loss itself. And to learn, like you, that I had that in me, that I could have ended it, because I would have told you there's no way beforehand. I would have said, no, I'm not a depressive person or something like that. I'm not, like, that's not me. But looking over a ledge and thinking how incredibly beautiful that calmness would be was terrifying. So actually it's more the acceptance and the comfort in that I found, that I've learned from. The grief itself, grief is hard. Grief is incredibly difficult. It always will be. You will miss that person physically, emotionally. But the easy option and how the comfort I had in that was probably the more difficult emotion. It was absolute comfort. I was not scared at all. And I would say one of the least fearful moments of my life was feeling like I could end it all. That wasn't a moment I was scared. So the lack of fear was probably now more frightening than the fear itself.
Wow, that's probably one of the best answers I've ever had, actually. Because I think that is fundamentally a sticking point for almost everybody, is the allure of comfort. How comfort attaches itself to familiarity, and familiarity feels right. Let's just stay the same. Let's just stay here. We're
Yeah,
not, it's
so
not too
easy.
bad. Things are okay. They're not that bad. You can put up with this. You can tolerate
Yep.
that. That's okay. You'll be all right. It'll be all right. You've got a fairly good
You'll be
life.
right.
You know,
Yeah.
you've got a nice house, you've got a nice car, you kind of love your partner, all of those
Yeah.
things, you know, all of that.
Yeah.
Mm,
It's so easy to just say, yeah, that's all right. This will do. This is
yeah,
this is
yeah.
enough. It's
And I
so easy.
think what
And
you're
we think,
saying, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what you're saying is, and I'm butchering it to a real simple statement. It's not a
please.
simple statement, but choose the hard road, choose the hard path.
Absolutely. Yeah. And
Yeah.
you do. It isn't easy. Nothing, none of this is easy. And to hear that so often, again, to hear that so often, my son, but it's not that easy. It's not that easy. No, great. I'm glad. I'm glad it's not that
Yeah.
easy. It's not going to be comfortable. None of that should be comfortable. These are things you're going to have to put hard work into,
Mm.
and into yourself, and absolutely choosing that hard road or taking the path that's maybe less trodden or different or unusual is absolutely can take you to incredible places.
Man, you're so right. I often use this analogy of clients. Life is like a farmer's field, and there's this
Hmm.
well-trodden track that everybody walks their dog on, everybody goes through, and it goes from one end of the field to the other. But unfortunately, it doesn't ever go where you want it to go. And if you
Yeah.
want to go where you want to go, you have to make your own path. And then people will say, yeah, but that sounds really hard. There's potholes there, there's thorns there, there's brambles there. I'm going to have to work really hard to smash that all down, and I don't know where I'm going. And there's always anxiety attached to it. There's always problems that are created, but actually, oh, I'll just take the normal path, but it doesn't go where you want to go. Yeah, but that's all right. And it's like,
It'll do.
what you're
It'll do.
saying is
Yeah.
like, yeah, and it's like hard path, and it is hard, and you're acknowledging that you're not getting away from it. And this is the thing, isn't it? When people are inspirational, it's not necessarily that they're giving you answers. They're just pointing out the thing that you're ignoring. I'm taking the easy road, and I'm angry at myself for doing that. I'm bored of my life. I'm bored. It's one of the
Yeah.
reasons why I think I seek out adventure so much. I go on mountaineering trips fairly regularly, and I keep getting altitude sickness. And people go to me, Johnny, why do you keep going? I say,
Why
yeah,
are you
but when
doing
I'm
it?
there, yeah, it's like when I'm there, I never feel so alive. It's like there's all
Yeah.
this risk and danger and adventure, and I love it. I a
Yeah.
little bit love it.
Absolutely.
So
And
yeah,
and,
it's
and the
mad.
answer
But
isn't for that doesn't mean that everyone should go on mountaineering trips. And it doesn't mean the same. I obviously talk about the boat an awful lot.
no,
And in
no.
1 second am I saying to everyone, you know what the answer is? Go off grid and live on a boat. It's not. The answer is that's my path.
Yeah, because that's
Your
not
path is
necessarily an easy way to live, is it?
no, absolutely not. There's this idea of boat life as being whimsical and beautiful, and there's times when it is. There's at the moment I'm moored absolutely in the middle of nowhere, and it's beautiful. It's overgrown, and there's birds, and there's bird sound and crickets and bats flying around at night, and it's lovely. I also had to empty my toilet yesterday and carry it over a mile, so that is not for everybody at all. So
That brings it home, doesn't it?
yeah.
With is it three boys you have?
Three boys. Yeah, there's
Yeah. So
four of us using this one self-emptying toilet. I have to empty it myself. I have to carry it to an emptying point.
wow,
And when you're in the middle of
fun.
the city, you can move it and it's a bit easier. But I'm in this incredible, beautiful spot, and then you've still got to empty your toilet. You still might run out of electricity. We're already prepping for winter now. I've been chopping wood this week and collecting and foraging some fuel for the fire, and it's physical, it's demanding. Last night we ran out of power. Although it was a beautiful sunny day yesterday, we were in a bit of shade and the sun didn't charge our batteries up from the solar, so we ran out of power. We sat down to watch TV in the evening, no power. So there's definitely, yeah, it would. I mean, how easy is it to be sat in a house and flick your switch on and have power, or turn your tap on and have running water? The life I've chosen is not one of absolute postcard whimsical beauty all the time. There's effort that it takes to then enjoy those moments of absolute beauty.
I love the contrast of you having that life of nice car, nice job, nice house, all of that, all the trappings of life, and you being ever so slightly unhappy with that. And then finding this life where it is a struggle, it is hard, things do just come at you all the time. It's never ending, it's relentless, I'm sure, but yet you're happier. I think the problem in society, and I've heard it said many times by very many intelligent people, that we're too comfortable. We are too comfortable in society, and that's why we've got so much time to argue about things that don't matter and to disagree and get offended and all of those different things, because we're kind of comfortable and a little bit bored. So we make up stuff to sort of engage us in a sense.
Yeah. That's just some stimulation, and it isn't natural to be that comfortable. We're not designed to have everything handed to us, but we're so used to that, aren't we? Just so used to having everything available to us all the time, and that isn't natural. We
No.
want actually, I actually think we crave some hard work, and and need that to keep us going. And I am happier. My idea of success is so different to what it was 10 years ago. So different. It's
Your version now is just to empty the toilet and to have power.
absolutely
Success.
having power and an empty toilet and my engine starting first turn. That's incredible success. That's brilliant. There we go. We've had to move the boat. I turned the key and the engine started. I haven't had to get greasy and oily. At the same time, I love getting greasy and oily. So maybe it's not. But yeah, it's really, and we still, again, I've still got it. I've obviously doing a lot more social media now, and I'll upload a reel and I'll obsess over how well it does and I still have that in me. I'm like, I really want this to do well. And ironically, I actually put out a reel about a month ago about success and about my idea of success, and it was a flop. It was the most unsuccessful reel I have ever done, and that was so humbling. It was brilliant. I felt like it was such a brilliant answer to do so badly. As it just
the universe totally gave you the answer to that, didn't it?
Absolutely. And I was talking about whether I'm successful and whether my followers and it was just flops. No one watched it. It was brilliant. I'm so glad that it did that. It was hilarious.
That's amazing. Thank you so much today for everything you've shared. Well, I know everyone's going to agree with me. You're an amazing fella, man. I'm really privileged to have you come into my life and to be able to have these conversations with you. So thank you very much for that.
No, my absolute pleasure. It's been great fun.
I just have one question before you go. It's a question I asked everybody from all the experiences that you've had. I'm sure that you've got something on this topic, but is there anything you'd like to pass along that could help people with their self-development?
There's so much, really. There's so much, isn't there? I really want people to realize that it's not you, it's not personal. These things that are thrown at you, these things that happen, these things that feel like they're constant challenges, that the universe is not attacking you personally, and nobody's out to get you. It isn't about what you've done. It's not. I don't believe it's karmic. I don't believe that people are faced with challenges. I do think that adversity is divine in itself, and it absolutely installs a strength and a power in you. But the moment you start taking it personally, and the moment you start questioning why me, is the downward spiral. Because again, just put it bluntly, shit happens. It will happen, and it will be hard, and it will be really hard. And no, you shouldn't just get over it. Absolutely, anyone that tells you shit happens, get over it. It's not what I'm saying. You shouldn't get over it. It will be hard. You will have to put the work in, and you will have to take that difficult path for any of it to pay off. I genuinely think that all the things that have happened and made me the person I am now. And actually, for one of the first times in my life, a person that I'm really proud of being, and it's taken me a long time to get to that point of absolute pride in what I do and who I am. And I haven't fallen into that by accident at all.
I absolutely love that. I love hearing that. I've known you long enough to say this perhaps, but I am going to say it anyway. I'm really proud of you, mate. Really am.
Thank you.
Really
And
you are. It's been a privilege.
And that's great to be proud, isn't it? Isn't it amazing just to be able to say, me too. Without ego, me too.
Yeah, and it doesn't come across that way at all. So that's refreshing in this day and age, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
So last question is, how can people find you? And is there anything you want to draw their attention to in any way just before you go?
So to find me, Instagram is where I am most prolific. I'm on there all the time. It's at 4 Boys on a Boat, number 4 Boys on a Boat, where we're kind of sharing our life and our adventures on the waterways. But it's not just about boats, and I always really want to stress that. Although our content is kind of shrouded in this idea of living on a narrowboat, I wouldn't say that I'm a narrowboat content creator. Most of my content is about parenting and life and my journey and my struggles. So I think it's there for everyone to enjoy and hopefully interact as well. I love hearing from people and hearing people's stories on there as well, and that's the incredible thing about having any sort of platform. So yeah, at 4 Boys on a Boat on Instagram. That would be amazing.
Yeah, and I would encourage you to go and check that out. Just as he says, it's honest, it's authentic, it shines a light and turns around and faces real life as it really is. And it's a At times it's difficult to hear some of the things you talk about, but many times there's quite a lot of joy in there too. Some of the
Definitely.
days that you spend doing wild stuff.
Yeah,
Looking
absolutely.
forward.
And it's not, yeah, and that's what I've really, there's a balance there. I discussed trauma on there, but it's not, I don't think it's just kind of constant attacks of trigger warnings all the time. I really think that I want to show now, especially now, the community that we've gained and the life that we're living and the impact of nature. Nature is a big part of our life and has healed me incredibly, or is healing me incredibly. I will never be healed ever. There's no such thing. I don't believe it's possible. I'm not healed in any way whatsoever. I'm flawed and I'm broken like the rest of us.
Thank you for your time, mate. And for those that don't know yet, I have a course out in a minute called the Self-Made Course. I'm going to put the link in the show notes for you to have a look at. It's a course that takes you from the idea that you might be self-sabotaging your life, which sounds very accusational and I'm putting my finger at you. But here's the thing. If you aren't self-sabotaging your life, how do you regain control? Quite a lot of the things that we have go wrong in our life, we sustain ourselves. And this course helps you shine a light on that, and it helps you go from self-sabotage to self-development. It doesn't do it by me being your guru or me telling you what to do. It does it by showing you some of the things that I have found help, and that is through the MADE model, which is to look into your morals, look into your ambitions, look into your drivers, and look into your environments. And when you look into those areas in the right way, you generally find what you need to know in order to move forward. So thank you today again to Andy. Thank you for the listeners and the watchers on YouTube, and I will see you next time for another episode of the Johnny Lawrence podcast. Thank you.